You ever notice how houses sound different at night? During the day, it's just background noise. Fridge hums, AC kicks on, maybe the floor creaks if you step too hard. But after midnight, it's like the house comes alive. Wood groans, pipes knock, random taps echo through the walls. That's what I kept telling myself anyway, that everything had a normal explanation. Until the night I realized it didn't. This was last summer, middle of July, heat wave in full swing. I just moved into this old rental house on the edge of town, built in the 70s, bad insulation, and an attic that was more like a crawl space than a real attic. That night I couldn't sleep. The fan was useless, just pushing hot air around. My shirt stuck to my back with sweat. I rolled over, grabbed my phone. 2:18 a.m. I remember it because the brightness stabbed my eyes. And then I heard it. A faint, steady thump. Not a pipe, not a branch against the roof. It sounded heavier, almost like footsteps, coming from the attic. Now this attic wasn't the kind you picture in movies. No stairs, no real door. Just a square panel at the end of the hallway ceiling. You had to push it up with a broom handle to get in. I froze in bed listening. Thump, thump, thump. Rhythmic, slow. Too heavy for a squirrel. Too deliberate for anything that should have been up there. My chest tightened. I told myself maybe the wood was expanding in the heat. Houses shift, right? But houses don't shift in patterns. I slid out of bed, crept into the hallway. The carpet felt damp from the humidity. My shirt clung to my chest, and I just stood there, staring up at that attic door. Neck craned back, waiting for something to happen, for dust to fall, for it to bulge downward. And then I saw it, not the door moving, not shadows, a string, a thin piece of frayed rope dangling from the attic door, just an inch or two. I swear to you, it hadn't been there before. My stomach dropped. Every instinct in me screamed, don't touch it, don't pull it, don't go near it. I backed away, went to my room, shut the door, locked it. But no matter what excuse I came up with, old insulation, something left behind, my mind kept circling back to that sound, those heavy, deliberate thumps. I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, I woke up again, thinking I heard it. When morning came, I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Sunlight makes you feel stupid about the things that scare you at night. But when I stepped into the hallway, that rope was still there, only lower, like someone had pulled it down a few more inches. I called my landlord, asked if there was any reason a rope would be hanging from the attic door. He laughed, said, "That house has character, huh? Probably just insulation. I'll check next time I'm over." But he never came. That night it happened again, the thumping. Only this time, there was something new, a dragging sound, like fabric scraping across wood. I wanted to leave, wanted to grab my keys and go, but I froze. My body wouldn't move. I sat in bed, knees to my chest, lamp on, phone in my hand. At 3:07 a.m., I heard it, a soft click. It took me a second to understand. The attic door, unlocking. I swear I heard the wood shift, weight pressing down from inside. I held my breath, eyes locked on the crack of my bedroom door, waiting to see the hallway flood with shadows. And then, silence. I didn't move again until the sun came up. When I finally got the courage to check, the rope was gone, completely gone, like it had never been there at all. I should have packed up right then, broken the lease, left everything behind, but I didn't. Rent was cheap, and I didn't want to move again. For a few nights, nothing happened. No thumps, no dragging, no rope. I started to believe it had been all in my head, until one night. I woke up to the sound of breathing, not mine, slow, deep, coming from right above my bed. I froze, stared at the ceiling, didn't dare breathe too loud. And then I heard it, a faint creak, the attic door, shifting. That's when I broke. I grabbed my keys, bolted barefoot out the front door, didn't even lock it. I sat in my car, engine running until sunrise. The next morning I called my landlord again, told him he needed to check the attic. He showed up with a stepladder, acting casual. But when he pushed that panel open, his whole face changed. I asked him what he saw. He shook his head, said, "Probably raccoons. I'll call pest control." But I saw it, in that split second before he closed it again. A blanket, a half-empty water bottle, and the corner of a sleeping bag. Someone had been living up there. He never mentioned it again, never called pest control, and a week later I moved out. To this day, I don't know how long they'd been up there, or what would have happened if I hadn't left when I did. But some nights, when I can't sleep, I still hear it. That slow, steady thump, like footsteps, right above my head. You ever get that weird feeling that your house doesn't really feel like your house anymore? Like suddenly it's too quiet, too dark, almost too big. That was me, and it all started one Thursday night last winter. I remember the exact time, 11:43 p.m. I couldn't sleep, wasn't even close. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone. You know the kind of nonsense you watch at night. People making midnight pasta, some guy fixing a squeaky chair. Just pointless, numbing stuff. My room was cozy, lamp on, that crooked little IKEA one I always swear I'll replace but never do. The yellow light gave everything a soft glow. Mug of half-cold green tea still sitting on my nightstand. And then, I heard it. A faint tap, dull, subtle, almost easy to miss. At first I thought it was my cat, Willow. She does that sometimes, paws at the sliding glass door when she wants to go out. But then it hit me. She wasn't home. She was staying with my sister. So I froze, just listened. Tap. Then silence. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a branch, maybe the wind. But here's the thing. It wasn't windy. The night air felt heavy, still, like the world itself was holding its breath. I leaned forward in bed, straining so hard I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. Nothing. I tried to shake it off, kept scrolling, but my eyes kept drifting to the curtain, half open. The corner of the room swallowed in shadow. And you know how your brain works when you stare into the dark too long? Shapes start to form, faces where there aren't any. I told myself I was just paranoid, but then came the second sound, not a tap this time, a scrape, slow, deliberate, like metal dragging against glass. My stomach dropped. I sat straight up, phone clutched in my hand. It was coming from the living room window, the one by the back porch, and I live alone. Or, at least I thought I did. I don't even know why, but I had to see. I slid out of bed, moving as quietly as I could. The glow from my phone felt too bright, too obvious. I didn't even think to call anyone. I just had to know. The hallway stretched out in front of me, longer than it ever seemed before. My socks whispered across the wooden floor. Every creak made me flinch. When I reached the living room, the lights were off. Only the faint orange haze of a street lamp bleeding through the blinds. And that's when I saw it. A shadow. Not mine. Not a tree. A man, standing outside the window. I swear my heart stopped. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his posture bent forward, like he was leaning in, watching me. I couldn't see his face, but I saw his breath fogging the glass. I didn't move, didn't scream. I just stood there, paralyzed. And then, slowly, he lifted his hand, pale, long fingers. He pressed it flat against the glass. I stumbled back so hard I nearly tripped over the coffee table. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor, lighting up the room for just a second. And that's when I saw him. His face, or at least enough of it. His eyes, wide, bloodshot, staring straight at me. And he was smiling. Not a normal smile, not friendly. It was the kind of smile someone wears when they know something you don't. I scrambled for my phone, grabbed it, and bolted back down the hall, straight into my room. I slammed the door and locked it. Even though I knew that flimsy lock wouldn't stop him if he really wanted in, my hands shook so bad I could barely unlock my phone. My thumb kept slipping on the screen. Finally, I got through. Dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, almost too calm. like she'd done this 1,000 times. I whispered that there was a man at my window. I told her I lived alone. She said, "Stay on the line. Officers are on their way," so I did. Sat there in the dark, back against the door, lamp off so he couldn't see my shadow. Minutes crawled by. 5, 10, 15. Every second stretched forever. And then, that sound again. The scrape, but not at the window this time. At the back door. I clamped my hand over my mouth. My chest burned from holding in my breath. The doorknob jiggled, slow, testing. He was trying to get in. The dispatcher kept repeating, "Officers are almost there. Just stay where you are." But I didn't feel safe. Not with that sound. Not with him only feet away, separated from me by nothing but wood and glass. And then, silence. No scraping, no jiggling. Just nothing. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. My ears rang from straining so hard to hear. Finally, the sirens. Red and blue lights cut across my curtains. When the cops came, I nearly broke down just opening the door for them. They searched everywhere. The yard, the porch, the perimeter. And they found something. Not him, but on the glass, smeared across the living room window, was a handprint. The same one I'd seen. The officer asked if I'd been cleaning windows lately. I said no. He nodded, scribbled something down and said, "We'll keep a patrol in the area tonight." That was it. They never found the guy. I didn't sleep that night. Or the night after. Even now, months later, I can't sit in the living room without feeling like someone's watching me. Sometimes, I swear I still see him, a flicker of movement past the window. Sometimes I wake up at exactly 11:43 p.m. Heart pounding. Maybe it was just some random creep. Maybe a break-in gone wrong. Or maybe he wasn't trying to break in at all. Maybe he just wanted me to know he was there. And honestly, that's the thought that keeps me up at night. You know how every house has that one spot that just feels wrong? Like the air's thicker there. Like you don't even want to glance at it when the lights are off. For me, it was always the basement. I never used it. Didn't want to. It smelled like mildew, like damp concrete and old paint cans. The bulb down there barely lit half the room, and the floor had these long cracks that looked like veins running through the cement. Anytime I had to go down, usually to reset the breaker, I'd jog back up like a little kid, heart pounding, convinced something was following me. But that was just imagination. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Until last March. It was a Sunday night. I remember because I'd just microwaved leftover pizza. Rubber crust, half-warm cheese, the kind you eat even though you know it tastes terrible. I was sprawled on the couch, Netflix droning some true crime doc in the background while I scrolled my phone. Rain tapped against the windows, steady and soft, and the whole house felt wrapped in this heavy, muffled quiet. That's when I heard it, from the basement. At first it was just subtle, a faint shuffle, like something sliding. I muted the TV, leaned forward, listening. Silence. I almost hit play again when I heard it. Thud. Not faint, not distant, clear as day. Something hit the basement floor. I told myself it was probably just a box tipping over. The place was cluttered, but I hadn't been down there in months. Nothing should have moved. I got up slow and padded into the kitchen. The basement door sat in the corner, paint chipped, edges scuffed like it had been kicked one too many times. I gripped the knob. It was cold, too cold. I stood there arguing with myself. Check it, ignore it. I even laughed trying to play it off. Said out loud, probably just the furnace. Thing is, my furnace isn't even down there. Still, I cracked the door. The smell hit instantly, damp and sour like wet stone. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Bulb was dead. Darkness just yawning down the stairs. My stomach twisted. I grabbed the big flashlight from the drawer, the heavy black one I keep for outages, and shined it down. The beam cut through dust floating thick in the air. Nothing moved, so I stepped down. One stair, then another. Each groaned under my weight. The air got colder. At the bottom, I swung the beam across the room. Boxes, tools, a rolled-up carpet, all where they should be. And then, the light hit something new. In the far corner by the old washer, a chair, plain wooden chair, facing the wall. I froze. It wasn't mine. I knew every damn thing down there. That chair hadn't been there before. I should have left. But no, I walked closer. The chair looked wrong. Not dusty like the rest of the basement. The wood was clean, polished, almost like someone had just placed it there. Then I saw the floor around it, scuff marks, like the chair had been dragged into place. That's when my flashlight shook. My whole arm was trembling, the beam darting across the walls. The basement felt different now, like the shadows were holding their breath. And then I heard it, from upstairs. Footsteps, slow, heavy, crossing my living room floor. My blood went ice cold. I shut off the flashlight, standing in complete darkness. My back pressed against the wall, chest heaving. The footsteps moved closer, into the kitchen, toward the basement door. I swear I heard the faint squeak of the knob turning, and then silence. I stood there for minutes, frozen, every nerve in my body screaming to move, but I couldn't. Finally, I forced myself up the stairs. Each step creaked like it was announcing me. At the top, I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. With shaking hands, I twisted the knob and pushed it open. The kitchen was empty. The living room too. But something was off. On the counter, next to the microwave, sat my pizza. Not on the plate anymore. On the counter. And a bite. A fresh bite. My stomach dropped. My hands went clammy around the flashlight. I backed away, whispering, "Hello?" My voice cracked. No answer. And then, from behind me, back down in the basement, creak. The sound of someone shifting their weight on a wooden chair. That broke me. I bolted out the front door barefoot, rain soaking me instantly. Didn't stop until I was 3 houses down. Called the cops from my neighbor's porch, shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. They came. They searched the whole place. Nothing. No signs of a break-in. Nothing missing. And when I asked about the chair, the officer just frowned. Said there was no chair in the basement. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. That night, I slept at a friend's. A week later, I broke my lease.